Ladies and gents, how are you? And welcome to the second episode of the Swim Special with the lovely guest, Abbie Wood. We spoke to Abbie about 3 weeks prior to the Olympic trials. It was just after the last Manchester Invitational meet. And we were all so pleased to see Abbie absolutely kill it at trials. Not only did she scrape onto the team, but she's going to Tokyo with a very high likelihood of challenging for podiums. And frankly, in the form that she's in, who knows what else? The sky's the limit with the performances that she's been putting in over the last 18 months, particularly leading off from that amazing breakout meet at the ISL Season 2. We spoke about a ton of things, some to do with swimming, some not. Abbie was an absolute delight, great sense of humour. And yeah, we were really, really pleased to have her on. So we hope that you guys enjoyed the conversation as much as we did providing it for you. So without further ado, Abbie Wood. Miss Abbie Wood, how are you? Thanks so much for coming on.
No, I'm really good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, not a problem at all. How are you first and foremost after Manchester the weekend? You all rested up after that?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I've just got a niggle in my shoulder, so I didn't really do much this time because it's kind of better safe than sorry before Olympic trials. So kind
Yeah.
of just played it safe and just did the freestyle where I don't have any pain on freestyle, and just
Yeah.
avoided breaststroke really because that's where it was worse. So apart from that, I'm all good. Yeah, wasn't as
Oh, good
eventful
stuff.
as it wasn't as eventful as the last Manchester, but I just had to just do. It was hard. It was frustrating to watch everyone like doing so well, and I just kind of wanted to get stuck in. But it was for the best, so yeah, it's fine.
Great. And yeah, for those as a fellow Northerner, Abbie, I have a slight idea, but for those who aren't aware, where is that accent from?
It's Buxton, so it's like in the Peak District in England, obviously. Between like it's kind of between Manchester and Sheffield. But it's Buxton's basically in the middle of nowhere. So yeah.
But you were back there for your first lockdown, weren't you?
Yeah, I moved out when I was 16, so it was weird going back home. It's the longest time I've spent at home since I moved out. I think the longest time before that was probably about 4 days straight. So it was weird staying at home for a good like I think it's like 10 or 12 weeks. Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, we all got on as a family though. Everyone's just doing their own thing, and my mum and dad were key workers, and I got a job, so we weren't really in each other's hair, so it was okay.
Oh, yeah, that's. I feel like everyone's been through that a bit, haven't they, recently? I'm back at home with my parents as well, and yeah, you
Yeah,
certainly get on top. You certainly get on top of each other every now and then. But
yeah.
you said during lockdown that you were doing loads of land training, I think, with
Mhm.
back with your coaches from Loughborough. But you said that you weren't keen on swimming in the local reservoir in Buxton during
No,
lockdown. Why is that? Do you want to explain that?
it's just not my scene. Like there was options to do it if I wanted to, and like there was a lot of people that weren't, and I felt like the only people that were doing it were the open water boys in our squad. So I don't know, like
Is it a hygiene reason? Is that why, or is it just you
no,
don't fancy it?
it's just literally I just didn't fancy it. Like I'd just rather have kept fit in different ways, and yeah, I just
Yeah,
wasn't like interested. It's just not my kind of thing. I like swimming in the sea, but when it's something like a reservoir or a pond, I don't know, something just puts me.
yeah,
I was probably
yeah. And I'm the
freezing as
same.
well.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
it. I think it depends on the area. No, I think it depends on the area as well because we've I don't want to say where because I don't want to rat them out, but we've got a local lake near us, and they drained it a couple of years ago for whatever reason I don't know, and literally it's about a kilometre long lake, and the whole bottom there was just full of BMX bikes. So
Oh
that put me off
my
swimming
god.
in ponds and lakes in the UK ever since.
Yeah.
But but just going back to your family as such, I mean, they must have been incredibly. Obviously, you moved out when you were 16, but they must have been incredibly important in your progression as a swimmer because your older sister was a swimmer as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, well, I think I kind of got into swimming because of my older sister. So, well, my mum used to swim first, obviously, and then and that kind of got Lucy into it. And then I just kind of followed my sister around. At first I didn't really have an interest, kind of just followed her around to meets. Like I didn't train or anything. And then I was always just sat watching her, and then one day someone was just like, "Why don't you get in and try it?" And I was a bit reluctant because I hated swimming lessons. And my sister definitely got me into it, and I was like a little sidekick for like about 5 years. Yeah, and then when
Yeah.
she went to Deventio, XL, which is Derbyshire's elite swim squad, I kind of followed her there a few years later, and yeah, I was just her little shadow, really.
Yeah. And at the event show, you were surrounded by quite. Is it true that you were training at the same time as a Sarah Vasey and Molly Renshaw? There, is that right?
So my it was my sister actually, because she's a few years older than me. She was best friends with Molly and Sarah, and there was always like an older group of girls and a younger group of girls, and so it's kind of weird now that me, Molly, and Sarah are so close now. And my sister finds it really weird because they were her friends. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, like we were all there at the same time. There was quite a few people from Devonshire that moved on to Loughborough afterwards.
Yeah. And so you've really nicked in and stolen your sister's friends, then, haven't you?
Oh yeah, well she quit about like 8 or 9 years ago now.
Ah, okay.
So like
Yeah.
she's not close to them or anything, so it's not that weird. But I bet to start with it probably was, but now
Yeah.
like it's she doesn't
Yeah.
care.
And one of my what I thought was cool at the ISL, I can't remember what race it was. We're just on the topic of just talk about how close you are with Molly Renshaw. I think I can't remember what stage of ISL it was, but it was one of the 100 IMs where you walked out with Molly, and
Yeah.
you two did like a little dance or a little jive together, sort of
Mm.
thing. Whose idea was that? And does anyone tell you, "Oh, you got to be entertaining before you walk out," or how does that
Yeah.
work?
They kind of tell you in the run up, like obviously the event organisers, like they want so much energy, and they're always saying like, "Oh, please do something on the way out, just to like big it up a bit." And I think Molly's a bit shyer on that kind of thing, and I was the one who was really like, "Oh, come on, like it's funny, like let's just do it." And I felt we were definitely a lot tamer than some of the boys, but we just did our own little thing, and it took a bit of persuading. And I don't think she did it with many of the other girls. I think she'd only do it if it was me or Sarah. So we definitely like pushed her to do it, but it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I all for it. I thought it was great. But do you reckon, as a kid, being around in Devonshire, being around such good swimmers, really
Mm.
helped with your development early on?
Yeah, definitely. Like I'd say, like when people ask me who my role model is in the sport, there's obviously like the generic answer, like Phelps or someone. But I think them two girls had such a big impact on me. Like Molly and Sarah, like Molly making a world's team when she was at Juventus when she was 15, and then it kind of just made me realize like I'm in the same position as her. Like we both train in the same pool at the same times. Like why can't I do it as well? And then when she kind of moved on to Loughborough at a young age at 16, and then I got approached when I was 16 if I wanted to come to Loughborough, and I was it just like egged me on. I was like, oh yeah, like Molly did it. I know Molly. She's there. And then Sarah came later, and we were just a little trio now, and it is so nice. And like the biggest, like we were only saying the other day, like our biggest dream is like if all of us three could go to Tokyo together. We'd never really
Yeah,
thought about it, and then we were just like, it actually would be like mad because we've trained
yeah.
together since like I was 11.
God, no, that would really be the stuff of dreams, that wouldn't it? But
Yeah,
you've talked about it a little bit actually. You moved to Loughborough when you were 16, and
yeah,
most people wait until university before they go there.
yeah.
Why did you move so early?
It was a big reason actually. So Buxton is an hour away from Derby, even though it's in Derbyshire. It's so far away, and like because it was so far, I physically couldn't do every single session at Deventio. So I did like half and half. Well, not even half and half. I did 6 sessions in Buxton Pool and 4 at with Devonshire, and the coach Andy Manley would send me sessions on my Buxton one. So I did like half my training on my own, and it was really hard mentally. And then obviously like traveling to Derby 4 times a week, like I couldn't drive, so it really put pressure on my parents, and it kind of like it get to a point where I just felt bad, like I was taking up so much of their life, and obviously they would never complain, and but I just think it was hard for them to not have an end in sight, and then it just felt so natural. Like, look, if someone said to me now, like, oh, like this girl's moving out at 16, like my opinion would be like, oh, that's so young, but I did it, and I don't think at the time I realised how big of a jump it was, just because Loughborough's got such a good programme for like, they have like an under 18 halls, and like there's like an elite house that I stayed in, and it was all like really seamless, and I kind of integrated with the Loughborough group and checked that I liked it before I did the move. So like in school holidays when I was like 15, I'd train with them like weeks at a time, and I think um obviously like all the other swimmers were like moving on, like all the international swimmers at Adventure were moving to Loughborough, and when I started making teams, like I had a conversation with Andy, and he was kind of like, this is the right move for you to do, like you're not with me all the time, you're only with me 4 sessions a week, like imagine what you could do if you were with your coach like 10 times a week. And it just was like, it was a no-brainer really. And they
Yeah,
had like, and I just did my college there, and it was just a no-brainer. It made my life so much easier. I'm a mum and dad.
yeah. So you went to college in Loughborough then? You didn't. Your education didn't suffer anything because of it.
No, no, I was really keen to keep it all going. Like I could have easily like found a way out of it at 16, or kind of just like played through it and then not really doing anything else. But I feel like I'm still in education now, and I feel like that's what's kept me like sane, because I always need something else to concentrate on. So it's nice having like my degree as well as swimming. I'd
Yeah,
literally go
yeah,
mad. I'd go brain dead if I didn't do anything.
yeah. No, I think everyone would, to be honest. But
Mm.
and is it true that when you moved to Loughborough, you were talking about they had these elite halls there? I read somewhere that you moved in into a house with 16 rugby players. 8 were men and 8 were
Yeah,
women. Is that right? And
yeah,
what was that like? That
yeah.
must have been absolutely mental.
I think it made the whole thing easier because it was so exciting. Like it was literally like living in the Big Brother house. Like it was so cool. Like I honestly like
Yeah.
they could have easily, because they were teams like staying together. They could have easily left me out, but they were so welcoming, and like I still talk to some of them now, and yeah, like it made the whole thing so much easier.
Especially as a 16-year-old as well. Were they 16 as well? Were they all your age or were they
Yeah,
slightly older?
yeah, we were all 16 going on 17. We were all going to the college. I think it made it so much easier because I could have easily just got a place on my own and only known the
Yeah.
guys at Loughborough Pool, and like I think it would have got to me. But because I had like this group of 16 other people in the same situation as me, like it was so easy, and like
Yeah.
there was like a warden living in the house, so like obviously we were safe. Like we had like curfews, like not like 9 p.m., but like we'd have stuff to check that we weren't like going out and like mixing too much with the students. Like it was like a really good program that Loughborough put on.
Yeah. No, that sounds absolutely perfect. But
Yeah.
yeah, because obviously there must have been a temptation. Well, I'd imagine with a bunch of 16-year-olds together, there's always a temptation for stuff to go mad. But it sounds like you guys dealt with it absolutely perfectly.
I mean,
But
it
yeah,
was mad in some senses. Like we like only on like silly things, like we were like messy, or like we'd have like a food fight. Like, but we weren't like taking the Mickey and like going out and getting pissed every night kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. And just back on to sort of, I suppose you move. One of the benefits of moving to Loughborough is that you're around such high level swimmers all the time, and you can learn from them.
Mm,
Has that been the case in your events, particularly with racing? Because in the UK over the last 10 years, in the 400 IM, you've had Hannah Miley, you've had Amy Wilmot, and
yeah.
in the 200, obviously, you've had Siobhan Marie O'Connor. Do you think that racing these girls consistently over a course of many years can only
Mm.
have improved you?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think it's one of the strongest events for women. Like, Siobhan's obviously Olympic silver medalist. Amy and Hannah are both Commonwealth champions. They're all British record holders. Like, they were the best, and like for so many years, like it was just me coming third and just trying to like itch closer to them every year. And I think at the time, like, it probably was annoying. Like, I would never place high at champs. Like, I'd be lucky to make the podium with them three there. So I think at the time, like, it was frustrating, but I didn't realize how good for me it was, because if it wasn't, like, I'd just be like swimming, racing on my own, and it just wouldn't have. I might not have been where I am now.
Yeah. And was there, when you were racing those girls, was there a moment where you sort of realised that you could potentially one day actually make a senior team, or that you could sort of compete with those girls?
I think it's only started to come recently. Like, I feel like since I sell, like, I've just had like a new lease of confidence. So like, even like before the pandemic, like, I saw them on such a different class to me, and I just couldn't compare myself. I just had it in my head that I was always third place, and like, I didn't really stand a chance until they quit. And I feel like I was in a waiting game of waiting for them to quit, and like, obviously, like Amy's like doing better than ever, so like, I don't that was the wrong approach to have. And I think now, like, since I sell, the confidence it gave me, I'm kind of like, no, like, I'm in the running as well. Like, I've not been around just as long, but like, I've got enough experience now to like go up against them. And yeah, they
Yeah.
just push me so much, and especially like training with Siobhan all last year, that definitely helped me a lot as well.
Yeah, no, that's something that I was going to talk about actually. About
Mm.
this year at the ISL, you were really one of the breakout stars, if not the most fervent breakout star at the meet.
Mhm.
Was when you before that meet, did you have an inner confidence that you had that potential in you, or because those results were so those times, breaking the 200 IM British record,
Mhm.
for being an example of that, because those were so unprecedented for you, was it a shock to your system at how
Mhm.
good you actually did go?
Yeah, like, it was the biggest shock I've had in my swimming career. Like, honestly, like, I did not see it. Like, I didn't see it coming at all, because obviously I had no indication of how my swimming was going. I hadn't raced in like, what, like 8 months.
Yeah,
Like, it was like so shocking. I think me and my coach kind of just said like, oh, like, it would be nice for you to come back with some top fours, just to get a bit of money to help me keep going with swimming. And he was like, these are the times that, like, my targets were literally like the times that the top four had got, like, in the season before. And I think I was literally just doing it for the experience and just to, like, try and get some momentum. And then after the first race, I literally went into the first race, and I was just like, right, I'm just gonna try and find my feet, see what it's like to race again. And then I touched the wall, and I'd come like second. Like, even in the race, I didn't even realize it was happening. Like, because of how the lanes are,
yeah,
and like, obviously it's like two, 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 two.
yeah. All the best
I had
people are on
no,
the other side of the pool, aren't
yeah,
they?
you
Yeah,
have no idea where you are. So like, you literally just find one person in your island and try and race them. And I literally thought like, oh, like, two or three people must be so far ahead, I can't see. And I just locked eyes with whoever, I think it was Melanie Margalis. And yeah, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna try and race her. And then I turned, and it was like a 2:05, and like, the fastest I'd ever gone before was like 2:07. And then I
yeah,
was so shocked. And then obviously, like, I think as the rounds went on, I just built so much confidence that I'd never had before. Because I think it was better. Like, me being so naive was like the key for me.
yeah.
At
It
ISL,
was, yeah, it was a little bit of ignorance was a little bit of a bliss for you at the time. Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah. Because if anybody's out there and they haven't noticed it, if you go back and watch your 200 IM at the ISL when you go 2:04, your
Mm.
face at the end when you see the time is an absolute picture to
Yeah. Well,
behold.
it
It's brilliant.
was. Yeah. Like, I remember after the first round, um, someone messaged me like, oh, like, obviously joking, like, it was a friend, and he was like, oh, like, 2:04, like, is a British record, like, you're on to that. And I was like, no, like, I've just gone a 2-second PB, like, I'm not an age grouper anymore, like, I'm not gonna do that kind of thing. it just had like, I think it was just the gaining confidence and like ready to race and like just chase the time. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
like exciting for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just sort of you touched on it there about how age group swimmers do massive PBs and what have you.
Mm,
What is particularly striking about your career is that you were always such a good international junior swimmer. I mean, if you go
mm,
back to 2013 Youth Olympics, 2015 European Games, you're winning golds in events there.
mm,
Um, but in swimming, lots of high level performers when they're 15 and 16, they lose motivation, they drop out, they don't want it anymore.
mm.
What was it that drove you on to really want to establish yourself in the senior ranks?
I think if I'm honest, like after my first senior competition, I did lose motivation, and I was like, this is not as easy as it was when I was a junior. And I did go through stages where I was like, I've lost it, and I think it was my coach that just said like, he just gave me examples of other swimmers who like it just doesn't work out for straight away. And I think even like going like probably like it didn't really click with me until like the end of 29, like what am I saying? It didn't really click. Like I was like going for it until like the end of 2018, like after Commonwealth Games when I'd had such a good time. I was like, right, like this is what I want to keep doing now, and I just need to pull my socks up a bit. But I definitely went through a stage of like losing momentum, and like I did have a few meetings to quit with Dave
Oh,
Hemming as my
really?
coach. Yeah, like not I wasn't like I'm gonna quit, but I was just like this is horrible because like my first worlds was 2017, which was straight fresh from being a junior swimmer, and I went PB plus 10 in Budapest, and I was so embarrassed, and it just really upset me, and I was like, I never want to feel like that again. He was just like, right, well, Commonwealth Games next year in Australia. Like, do you not just want to get? He's like, you only have to go PB plus 5 to get a free trip to Australia. He's like, it'd be stupid not to go. And then I had such a good time there, and it kind of just, I was like, right, okay, actually, I do want to keep going.
Yeah. So the reason that you wanted to make the Commonwealth team was because of the free holiday. Is that right?
I think a lot of it pushed a lot of people on a lot more. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I
I
tell
hadn't
you what, a
really.
free trip to the Gold. Sorry, a free trip to the Gold Coast. I certainly wouldn't let up.
Yeah, it was honestly one of the best experiences I've had. So yeah, I'm glad. And it really just it really just made me realize that how lucky I was, and yeah.
Yeah. So what for swimmers who were 50, in your position, I suppose, a couple of years ago when you were considering quitting, is there any one piece of advice that you'd give them if they were at that same point?
Um, Probably just like don't quit too early, because like if I'd have quit when I did, like I would not be in the position I am now, and I'd probably just like be, well, I'd be at uni, but I'd just be like, I don't know, just like getting pissed every night and not really having a lot
Yeah.
to do with it. And I don't know, like I feel like I was very ready to quit too soon. Like I had only given it one chance at senior swimming, and yeah, like just don't quit too soon, because I'm definitely glad that I didn't now.
Yeah. And you were sort of talking about what are the main attractions to swimming is that you get to travel everywhere,
Mm.
to loads of cool places around the world. You were on the New York Breakers team at ISL. Have you been promised any trips to New York at all?
Um, it was like on a like it's been on like surveys and stuff, like where we want our like hub to be if we were gonna start one up, and like New York was on there. I don't really know what pools are about in New York. Never been, and that would obviously be amazing. But I think they did go on a training camp before the last one. They went to Turkey, I think. But our lot just kind of decided to stay with Dave a bit longer at Loughborough. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it would be class to go to New York, but I don't, it's not, nothing else has come from it, because obviously there's no getting over there at the moment.
Yeah, and I suppose that's the I suppose one of the conversations to be had about the ISL because the hub seemed to work so well this year,
Mm.
but at the same time, when there wasn't the hub, you guys got the opportunity to travel all over the place.
Mm.
So What is your thoughts on that?
I think for this year, like, it was perfect. Like, it was 6 weeks. Like, no one was doing anything. Like, no life plans were going on. Like, because 6 weeks is a long amount of time, and like, you do literally, like, if it was normal times, you'd literally be putting your life on hold for 6 weeks, and like, obviously, like, you would love to, but there's stuff you'd like miss out on, and I feel like personally, I'd rather have it like a weekend at a time and like dotted around different places. Not only because you'd be able to travel more, like maybe that's me being selfish. Like, obviously, I want to see more of the world, but I think 6 weeks straight is a big chunk out of like a swimming season. Like 6 months, I was like not 6 months. I was 6 weeks away from a home coach, 6 weeks away from my family. But like at the time, like I didn't have anything else going on in my life. So I think for the season, just like for this season, it was perfect. But I feel like when like everyday life kicks in, like if they tried to do a 6 week thing again, like people would be going in and out, like
Yeah.
yeah, like I just don't think it would be as doable, if you get me.
Yeah. And well, I suppose that's one of the things. You guys had so much spare time at the
Mm,
ISL this year, and I heard you actually speaking about how you devoted some of that time to writing up your dissertation. How did that
mm,
go? Did you make the most of it, or did you still
mm.
have plenty to do when you got back?
Well, I'm still doing it now. Like it's a big
Oh, okay.
project. Yeah, it's 12,000 words, and you have to do like your own project and your own study. So my deadline is next Thursday, actually. So it is, yeah, it's coming up soon. But I think like it gave me something to do. Like I was like, right, I'm gonna kickstart it here, and I think I did get like a good quarter of it done, which I think the hardest thing to do is start it. And I had so much time, and I was like, I need like this is the opportunity to do that. I've got no distractions. Like I'm literally in a room in my own. No one's allowed to. We're not allowed to go anywhere. So I was just like, this is like the perfect opportunity to start it, and it did make me do it.
Yeah. And you study criminology, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you therefore a big fan of crime documentaries or not?
Yeah, like crime documentaries and books. I'm really into, yeah.
Into any of the crime docs on Netflix at all recently?
Um, I do. I mean, it sounds a bit shallow, but I prefer the dramas that are kind of like fictional.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But I do watch some of the ones on Netflix that are real, obviously. But I do prefer the dramas because they're just made up and it's nicer.
Yeah, but back to sort of talking about Loughborough, I suppose
Mm.
is that criminology career? Have you considered your career after swimming, or anything that you'd like to go into at all?
I think like that's one of the major reasons I wanted to do a degree was because I was quite realistic, knowing that swimming's not going to last forever for me, and like I do want a degree to fall back on, and it is something that like I want to pursue after swimming, or I don't know, my mind kind of changed every week. Like I don't know if like there's other stuff I'd want to do. So like now I finished uni, and I'm probably going to carry on swimming. Like I'll probably pick up an online course next year and do something else. Like I've got loads of time, like 'cause swimming. Well, not loads of time, but like I just like having a distraction for my brain. So I feel like why not? I might as well pick up the qualifications now when I'm swimming, rather than
Yeah,
wait until I finish and trying to get loads of qualifications and whilst I've not got a job.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And on the topic of sort of jobs and funding, you've spoken before about how you're not on funding at the moment, are you? Is that right?
Well, after Manchester, I got put on it. Yeah.
Oh well, good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I was wondering. Yeah, okay. But when you weren't on funding, the
Mm.
ISL must have been even more attractive to you
Yeah.
professionally
Well,
as well as financially, just to keep going in the sport, I suppose.
yeah, like when I was talking to my coach, like when obviously the solidity agreement came up, and I was just like, I don't care what team I'm on, what I've got to do, I'll do any event. I was like, I need this to live. Like, I don't have a choice. Obviously, I've got my student loan that kept me going, like, it pays my rent, but like, I was not. It was hard. It is hard, like trying to be a swimmer and not getting paid. Like it was pretty rough. Like you like living on rations when you're supposed to be like eating like a king. And well, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's not as extreme as like
Well,
eating on
I
rations. That's
know.
very extreme. But like it is hard. Like obviously, like uni's so sociable. Like you want to go out and like have meals every night because that's just what students do. And it was really hard, especially when I'd been on funding since I was like, I think I was 13 when I got put on it. So I'd been on it and was used to having this money for 7 years, and then for it to be taken away, it was really hard. On like, it was like, luckily my sister had just finished uni, so they weren't supporting. My parents weren't having to like pay for both of us. Um, but like, if my parents couldn't have like afforded it, like I would have literally had to quit swimming. Like it is hard, and I think as well it's like a bit of a kick in the teeth that like obviously like it is cutthroat. Like they have to do what they've got to do, like with funding. But it was hard. Like you just felt like you weren't as supported as you were. Like people didn't believe in you as much. But like Dave, like 100% like with me the whole way. He was just like he just made me put my energy into like proving people wrong and have that mentality, and it was really good. I think it was good for me. Like I think I was getting quite comfortable, just like doing the bare minimum to stay on it, and like now it's just given me like an extra push I needed. So I think it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And it so how important has your coach been in these conversations? You talk about your parents a lot with funding, but you talk about your coach in terms of the decision to keep on swimming or not.
Mm.
By what I'm sort of hearing, he is really, really pivotal in your career.
Oh, 100%. Like I've like me and Dave get on like a house on fire. Like it's definitely. I feel like definitely more recently, like I've really grown up, and like it's more like a partnership rather than like a swimmer and coach. Like we're just like really trying to make it for each other, really. And like I'll give him like as much, like I'll give it him back now, as in the sense like obviously I'll give the chat back, but as well as like I'll give him the feedback that I'd never used to give him. And I think we both like push each other. Like I push him as a coach, and he pushes me as an athlete. And I really trust the program that I've been on with him for the past 6 years. And like obviously at times like you do doubt it, but you just look around at everyone in the squad. Like it's such a strong squad now that Dave's put together. And yeah, I rate him as a coach so highly. I don't think there's another coach I'd rather be with at this moment in time.
Oh, no, brilliant!
Mm.
That sounds like you're in the absolute perfect position right now, then to sort of
Yeah,
kick on towards
like
the Olympics.
yeah, and like it's not just him. Like it's like the whole squad is just like in one mindset, and like everyone's going for the same thing. And it's really like cool place to train at the moment, and down in Loughborough.
Great. And where was it? Which coach would you give responsibility to for developing your underwater sections to get to where they are now? Because I mean, that was one of the things which really struck out in the ISL because it was short
Mm.
course. Obviously, you
Mm.
really, really showed how good you were under the water. When did that develop into your swimming?
I think the discipline of it was definitely when I was with Daventio. Like I think because it was Andy Manley I had, who's at Loughborough now as well. Actually, he just like found me things that I could work on my own at Buxton. So like I remember one of the things I had to do, like say if I had like an 800 warm up, he'd get someone at Buxton, he'd get someone to put a rope down the middle of the pool, and I'd have to get past the rope every wall. So it was like 12.5 off every wall, and it just really got ingrained in my brain. And then I think like year by year at Loughborough, like because I had the discipline that I was doing it, but it might not have been as quick. And like Dave is really on it with the underwaters. Like I think it shows with how good Joe is at it as well. Joe Litchfield, like me and him do a lot of underwater sets together, like some sprints. And it's I think the discipline was there at Daventio, and then the getting the speed from it was from Dave.
Yeah. And so when you're training, are you in different groups at Loughborough then? Who's your sort of your key training partners, would you say?
So in the whole centre, there's two groups. So there's Mel's group, which is like Adam, Luke Greenbank, Sarah Vasey, and obviously a few others. And then our group with Dave is like me, Joe, Max, Molly, Renshaw, James Wilby. That's just like a handful. And there's about like 10 in Mel's group, 10 in Dave's, and then like Dave is so like particular. He could have, because like most of us are 200 swimmers, he could have easily just put us all like down on the same thing. But like couldn't even give you one training partner I have. Like Dave's so specific. Like he'll have like a whole session plan, and they'd literally be like 6 sessions going on, like every single session. Like I think it's so rare that we never all do one session together as a group, because obviously there's the open water boys, and then there's me and the two medley boys, Joe and Max, and then obviously the breaststrokers, so Molly and Wilby, and then I rarely join in with Molly and do some breaststroke with her, or like us, I am not join the open water boys to get some aerobic into us. Like it's literally like a moving beast. Like everyone's chopping and changing everywhere. And, like he's just so particular, and everyone has their own session plan every week, like what they're going to do each session. And I think he writes each person's session plan individually, and then he just sees where they can join together. He doesn't write it so like, oh, I'll have a group of 5 people doing this and then a group of 5 people doing this. Like he's just so particular, because I think he sees that everyone has a separate career. Because I think a lot of people have started to question why me and Molly don't really train together, and it's nothing to do with like, oh, like there's no like, obviously there's no rivalry. There's just like we're just like completely different swimmers. Like I'm like more aerobic based, and like my breaststroke has developed from my medley, whereas Molly's like a breaststroker through and through, and like I couldn't do the loads of breaststroke that she does every day. Um, and yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just Dave's just so particular with it, and it's really good. I think that's why I trust
No,
him so much, because you can see how much he cares, like per session plan. So much time goes into it.
yeah. So it seems to be that he really, really sets high standards for you all the time, every single day. Do you feel like those standards, your standards of training, went up after you went to Loughborough?
Yeah, like I feel like when I was doing the Buxton and Derby split, I thought I was only making an effort on the Derby sessions. Like I was very lucky in my junior career. Like looking back, like the sessions on Buxton on my own, like I'd just get the meters done and go home and like kind of just doss around. Like, but at Loughborough, like every single session, there's a new objective. Like it's never like, oh, this is recovery. Like just do this. Like the recovery
Yeah.
sessions are your technical sessions, and there's never a session really to switch off, apart from say if it was after like a big meet. So like this morning, we just had like an easy 6K. Well,
Yeah.
6K,
Yeah.
as easy as 6K can be, but
I mean, yeah, I definitely don't think that'd be easy for myself, Abbie, but it might be easy for you.
yeah, I definitely do. Like, yeah, the meters are quite high in my program, but it's how
Yeah.
I work, so that's fine.
Yeah. And does your coach enjoy the? I suppose the higher the standards he sets for you, the more likely it is that he gets these free trips to cool places. So does
Well,
he?
yeah,
Does he go out to those places with you or not? You said he didn't go to ISL with you. How does that work?
I think ISL was because it was like a personal decision. Like, it's kind of like what I was like getting at before. Like, he's putting his like life on hold for 6 weeks, and he's got like a 1-year-old at home. And like he's not gonna want to spend 6 weeks away from him, which is so fine. Like he'll do the 3-week camps with us like all the time. Like we go to altitude all the time. Like
Where do you do the altitude camps?
Flagstaff.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he got picked on. He's been named for the Tokyo team, so yeah, I reckon he does love it, and I think he did definitely love the ISL, because I'm sure coaches get a cut of the prize money. Like, I'm sure that's a
Oh,
thing.
happy days then.
Yeah,
Happy
like
days.
that's definitely a thing. Like, yeah, so he's probably buzzing.
Yeah, good stuff. And just on Loughborough more generally, it's obviously it's so renowned for being an elite swimming training centre, one
Mm.
of the best in the world. But to those who don't know, what is Loughborough like, the place? Because it's not the biggest of places. It hasn't got that many people. For you guys
No,
living there, what is it? What's it actually like?
it's a student town. Like, I'd say the whole town is just run by students because Loughborough itself is small, but it's a big university. It's a well known university, and like I've like obviously your summers are there the whole year, and it is so dead when there's no students because obviously they go home for the summer, go home for Christmas. It is like a ghost town. Like there's no traffic or anything. Like it's so weird when the students aren't there. But I'd say like when the students are there, it is kind of like a little city in a little town. Like because there's like nightlife's obviously good because like of the students. Like there's so many places to eat. Like the cinemas. Like when I compare it to like Buxton, which is probably the same size town like where I'm from, like there's nowhere near as many like chains of restaurants. Like there's like one club and like it's kind of I don't
It's
know,
got
like
everything you need there.
it's a little place with a lot going on and then like you don't because you don't get the cities like you're like 20 minutes from Leicester, like half an hour, 40 minutes from Nottingham. Like it's like ideal for where I want to be right now. And yeah, I
Yeah,
really enjoy Loughborough. But like everyone
and
knows everyone as well.
okay, well that's got pros and cons, I suppose, hasn't it?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
but in terms of the swimmers at Loughborough, I feel like there's this big misconception that you guys just stick to yourselves, and that like if we were to go on a night out in Loughborough, me and my mates, that there'd be one corner of one bar where there's just swimmers sitting in goggles and wearing fins and that. But do you guys actually mix with other students at all?
I think everyone does individually. So like I have my course mates, but I think obviously we're not sat there in hat and goggles, but it is really like a swimming bubble, like because there's so many swimmers and um like obviously combine the centres combined with the uni squad, like it's a massive social within Loughborough swimming, and I think it's easy to just stay in like the swimming bubble kind of. But like I think individually everyone has their own friends and their own course mates, but like for nights out, like we do just enjoy each other's company, and yeah,
You
it is
guys, do you
probably
guys
a
live?
good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but do you guys live together then? Are you in a house with swimmers at the moment, or with other students?
Yeah, so I'm in House of Swimmers, but they're girls that are in the uni squads. So I don't train with them, which is nice. Because it feels like they're kind of like away from the pool, because I don't see them at the pool or training. Like we've just got close from like doing the swimming socials together. The few that there are, but because
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
I'd imagine there aren't. I'd imagine that you have to wait till after the season and everything for all that stuff.
yeah, I'd say there's like three like parts of the season that like swimmers just go a bit mad, and I think that's the same anywhere in the swimming world. Like, yeah, it's a lot of
Yeah,
fun though.
yeah, and but it's certainly reaping rewards for you at the moment, because I mean, over the last 18 months, you've been on an absolute tear in terms of your performances. Were you? Where obviously we've talked about it a little bit, but looking back on the year of craziness,
Mm.
are you grateful that there was the delay to the Olympics, or are you still a little bit frustrated because you were in such great shape going into trials last year?
I'd say at the time I was definitely frustrated because obviously I didn't know I would be able to push my swimming on much more. But like now, I'm like so glad it happened. Like this time last year was like Edinburgh meet, and like I would literally like I remember I think I even shaved down. Like I was so like keen to go fast, and I think I went like a 2:11, and then like now when you compare that to Manchester meet just gone, like I'm going 2 seconds quicker now, and it's kind of like I feel like the goal last year was just to make the team, just get my name on the list, and I feel like this year it's like I want to be a competitor at the games, and I feel like that's the shift that's happened within a year, and it's such a blessing for me and a few other swimmers in the squad, I'd say. Like, it's given
Yeah,
everyone like a new lease and like a new love for swimming. Like, you could tell like, everyone was quite happy to be back when we had to have 10 weeks out.
yeah,
I think it made everyone appreciate it so
and
much
that
more.
yeah, no, definitely, and that Manchester meet a couple of weeks ago, that must have been such a big confidence boost for you. To
Mm.
know that in this season where training must have been a little bit all over the place, that you really are on form going into the trials.
Yeah, I think it kind of started at ISL, like it could have literally gone either two ways, and then I think ISL kind of set it in stone a bit more, like right, like it's going in the right direction. And then I think the only pressure on Manchester was kind of like, can I back these swims up long course? Like, this is where it matters this season, and I was just like over the moon with how it went in Manchester.
Yeah, brilliant. And so just we've just got a few more questions for you left, Abbie.
Yeah, cool.
Probably the most important question is, obviously we've spoken about how you're a young swimmer looking forward, to the future. But when you do decide to call it a day and retire in the very distant future, we're all sure. What do you wanna look back at your career and have achieved by that point? That could be in swimming, or it could just be in life more generally.
I feel like swimming's easier to answer than life generally. I think
Or anything related to swimming. It doesn't have to be, anything too much.
I think in swimming, I think it's just to like get as much experience and meet as many people as possible. And I think obviously that the whole goal throughout my career has always been to make an Olympic Games. And um, yeah, I think that's like it's like the simpler answer. Like, obviously, like now things are progressing. Like, my goals might be changing, but I feel like just getting like my name on an Olympic team it's just always been the dream. And yeah, looking back, yeah, and I think enjoying it as much as I could, as much as I am right now. And I feel like when I was doing, I think it was the reason I dropped the 400 medley long course, really, because I just hated it. I hated competing. I wasn't having a good time at all. I dread racing, and it just wasn't me anymore. And I think, like, as soon as I dropped it, I was having such a better time and like loving swimming again. And yeah, so
Yeah.
I think just to enjoy it. And like now I'm definitely now I've dropped the 400 medley.
Yeah, you're happy as Larry after that, yeah.
Mm,
And just in terms of the promotion of swimming, ISL is such a big thing.
mm,
Is that something you'd really be interested in the actual sport of swimming being more mainstream? Because I mean, we were talking
mm,
about money earlier. If you were at your level in any mainstream sport, you'd be earning a real significant living at the moment. Is that
yeah,
something you'd love to get behind?
something I'd love to watch. Sorry, it cut out.
To get behind, sorry, to support.
Yeah, like yeah, obviously, like I think even when I'm finished swimming, like I'd love to keep like like maybe go over to like the media world and like promote that even more. It was something I'd love to do because I feel like I could talk for England, and I feel like ISL is like I feel like ISL is like the first step towards it getting up there with bigger sports. Like, it's definitely like it was hard before because like the only spotlight it had and the chance to get any promotions was every 4 years at the Olympics. And even then it's in a pool of so many other sports like competing like for airtime, whereas like something like football is like on like every weekend, like two, like it's on all the time. And
Yeah,
swimming like does not get that coverage at all, and there's not like that much money in swimming. I feel like ISL is definitely like making it start. It's getting the ball rolling. I'd say that's the best phrase for ISL.
yeah. Well, fingers crossed keeps developing the sport more. Just
Yeah.
quickly before we leave, I've been asked to ask you who you would like to come on this podcast. Who you think would be interesting to come on?
Oh my god, that's such a hard
You don't have to
question.
rat anyone out. Don't worry.
Um, I think Joe and Max, they're quite chatty and they'd be good together. I think. The brothers, Joe and Max Litchfield. I think
Good stuff. We'll
Yeah,
we'll have a good laugh with them then.
yeah, like they'd be cool because like it's always like being competitive, but I feel like Joe's stepping it up. Like it's getting more even now, and I think I don't know, they're good. They're chatty
They're
boys,
both,
and yeah,
they're both at the peak of their powers at the moment, aren't they? So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, good stuff. Anyway, Abbie, thank you so much for coming on. You've been an absolute delight, and
No,
we'd
thank
love
you.
to
I've
have
had
you
a
on
really good
again.
time. No, yeah, I'd love to
No
come back.
problems. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks so much again for coming on, and we all wish you the very best with the season coming up. We'll be following you closely, and yeah, the very best of luck for everything in the future.
Thank you very much.
No probs. Take care. Thank you for listening to an episode of the Swim Special. Everybody here at ISL News greatly appreciates it. Do not forget to catch us on whatever platform you use to hear your podcasts, and also give us a follow on Instagram at iswimleague_news. That's where you can find all the best content about swimming, in particular the ISL and the upcoming ISL Season 3. We're going to be putting the videos of these podcasts onto YouTube, as well as clips, and also we're going to be putting those clips onto Instagram as well, so don't forget to catch us there. Thanks very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. Cheers.